Yo, welcome to episode 26 of Seraphic Blue. We're still in the middle of this story dump. Your mother's name is Syra Roseberg. Think about it. Don't you remember hearing a name similar to hers? Yeah, George God damn it. I keep saying Ross, but it's Roseberg. Syra Roseberg. Roseberg. Yes. Syra Roseberg is the daughter of George Roseberg. I kinda suspected as much. In that case, I'm George's grandson. That's bullshit. So I'm actually being targeted by my grandfather? Pretty wild. That's right. But why? To him, you, being a child of Edwin and Syra, are a product of his most hated memories. That is why he wants to purge you from this world. In truth, it is not that he loathes you for who you are, but for being related to Edwin by blood. His most hated memories, There exists the ground governance department within Frezite's Internal Affairs Office. It's a department that aims to shape the growth in politics from the ground. Despite humans having no knowledge of Frezite's existence, it's certain means to ensure that the department's plans will go smoothly as proposed. That means was to specifically select a human from the ground to act as the middleman of the department's projects. And so 32 years ago, the year 28 of the Rio calendar, a clinical trial of a new drug to be conducted on humans was planned. So the department basically used humans as guinea pigs. Well, there was virtually no risk involved. But you are technically right. What was that? One thing from the very beginning of the game, where we were talking with the quack doctor about some miracle drug or whatever. I don't remember what was the name of the thing, drug called. Of course, for this clinical trial to be conducted smoothly, it could not be made known to outsiders, taking into account the need to destroy all evidence of our involvement. It was decided that a rural town would be an ideal place for the clinical trial. So in accordance with that condition, a certain pharmacy and a certain rural town in the middle of the ground was selected. The town's name was Torku. The name of the owner of the pharmacy there was Roseberg. Wait, if I recall correctly, didn't George develop a new drug called Tranquil G back then? Yep, that's the name of the thing I was mentioning about. That may be how it appeared on the surface. Development of Tranquil G was his first step to success. In actuality, Tranquil G was a new drug prescribed to humans by Frezite. George then started Roseberg Pharmaceutical Limited. Thereafter, a few more clinical trials of new drugs were conducted under the pretense that George had developed Tranquil G2 and 3. By that time, George became an economic powerhouse on the ground, unrivaled in wealth, fame, and authority. Thereupon, Frezite's Internal Affairs Office officially certified him as the special human representative of Frezite, in charge of governance and developments on the ground. Even Frezite's technologies were not limited to pharmaceuticals, sold wholesale too. In other words, Roseberg Enterprise has been shaped into a major branch of the President's Internal Affairs Office. So that's the true nature of Roseberg Enterprise. I keep wanting to say Ross. God damn it. What does that have to do with any of my birth? I keep wanting to take away from that, from this, is that George is a board member of went to the ground with a mission to give rise to the birth of a Seraphic blue by means of a natural reproduction of a female human. He is someone with a strong sense of duty. On the other hand, his weakness is that he tends to be extremely narrow-minded once he gets preoccupied with something. As a result, he established shallow, materialistic relationships with women of every kind so that he could advance the cause of saving Gaia. Warm words, gentle smiles, and lovely presents. Those were all simply cards he played to please them. And when a relationship reached a stalemate, he would cut it free without a second thought. It was as if he was strictly following a manual without discretion, or doubt. Discretion or doubt, there we go. He sure was a heartless bastard. It didn't matter to him if he crushed someone's heart underfoot. No price was too steep to pay for the salvation of Gaia. I certainly cannot say that there weren't any people whose lives were ruined because of him, but at least one or two definitely existed. Like, what do you think of this plan that we came up with?
It's pretty crazy. In that bastard's case, he basically disconnected his mind from his conscience in order to execute the plan.
Indeed, it was insane. At that time, we were no doubt out of our minds. We lost our composure in our great cause to save Gaia, and perhaps acted like we were entitled to whatever actions we wished to take. We carried out many unorthodox initiatives in service of our cause, and in doing so brought distress to many people. In hindsight, it was just horrific. And so, Edwin's actions bore not a single fruit. The distress built up in him soon made him come to his senses. The ever-fury spirit in him suddenly abruptly cold. Oh my god. In him turned abruptly cold. He began to think, what have I been doing? Understanding everything objectively, he became appalled by his mission. As a result, he fulfilled the request to discontinue the inhumane and foolish plans involving Seraphic Blue to the CMGC's higher department. However, he was only a novice agent. Naturally, the higher department rejected his request. To make matters worse, the department decided to banish him to his homeland on suspicion of treason. But of course, he ignored that decision. Not only that, but he also resorted to an unthinkable, rash, and drastic course of action.
What was that?
To abduct Syria.
My mother? What the hell did he think he was?
His intent was to kidnap the daughter of a key Frezite figure, George, and use her as a hostage to drive through his request.
That's just bonkers.
Goddamn, I accidentally double tapped. Edwin was originally focused on fulfilling his mission to save Gaia in any ways possible. But after coming to his senses, he switched his focus to stopping our plan by any means necessary. However, in doing that, Edwin had made a huge miscalculation. He had misjudged George Roseberg. George used to be a quiet person. He and Syria had started running a pharmacy after he divorced his wife due to her money spending problems. Throughout their time at the pharmacy, they had established many good relationships with people in their neighborhood. However, a power from the heavens bestowed upon him one day. George Pharmacy was selected as the base for clinical trials of new drugs by Frezite to be conducted on humans. George was enthralled by that power. It gave him near omnipotence over the world of the ground. As his self-righteousness and desire for monopoly grew rapid, he began wanting all things of the world for himself. Those things included his daughter, Syria. Status as a single father took a toll on him, and by then his feelings for Syria has deviated greatly from parental love. Syria was his precious object, and belonged only to him. She was the perfect toy for him to play with as he pleased.
George has turned into a complete deviant. And although Syra was provided with all necessities of life, she was nothing more than the doll in the hands of a pervert. Thus, her reduction didn't cause any suffering. Instead, it freed her from George. Yes, that was Edwin's miscalculation. Syra, who was ignorant of the world and lived a sheltered life of a horrible emotional trauma, became deeply attracted to Edwin. Likewise, Edwin was moved by her queer circumstances and vowed to protect her. Upon receiving news of Syra's seduction, the Internal Affairs Office officially classified Edwin as a rogue agent to be eliminated at once. At the same time, George deployed his squad of assassins, the Black Leos, to personally recover Syra and kill Edwin. And so began the cat and mouse game of their attempt to escape pursuit. Edwin and Syra, before they knew it, the two had formed a strong bond with each other. What do you think? Isn't it beautiful? It truly is. I didn't know such a beautiful place could exist. Lake Ravenna is, after all, a very popular attraction. I see. Well, who would have thought that I, a foreigner, would know what's trendy here? Better than you, a local, do. You're right, it's certainly ironic. As I always kept on a close watch, the only thing I knew of this world was my large mansion. I don't want to go back there. Don't worry, I hate bird cages too. Although, to be honest, this is totally not what I had expected. You were supposed to be my bargaining chip. But now, I spend every day protecting you and escaping with you. It's ridiculous, really. Say, what if... What if I were to give birth? Sorry, but that's downright impossible. Even now, our people are still having a hard time achieving that. After all, it's giving birth to the first ever half-human, half-Seraphic. Even then, there's still a chance. Well, I guess you're right. I ought to look more on the bright side. Well, I wonder what name we should give to our child. You're already thinking of a name? Why not? Well, okay. If our child's a girl, how about naming her Ravenna, the name of this lake? Ravenna. That's a nice name. Then what if our child is a boy? Oh, I haven't got a clue. Oh, I know. How about lake? As in Lake Ravenna. Lake. I see. That's good too. Say, are you certain we can still live on like this? That's kind of cheesy, but I like it. It's nice. I can't say it for sure, but I'll gamble my life on it. Swear on our memories that we'll live on. Then Syra conceived you. Ironic as it might seem, the bond between Edwin and Syra led him to give up on his goals and set his sights on her instead. Thereafter, the pursuit intensified as the days went by. Edwin came to realize that he was putting Syra in grave danger by being with her. Also, their undoubted day and night cat and mouse game was too much of a burden on the pregnant Syra to be overlooked. A decision was made without much hesitation. With full priority on Syra's health, Edwin decided to bring her back home for the time being. The home of that deviant was something Edwin knew all too well. If he and Syra were to continue the cat and mouse game, Syra would inevitably succumb to a tragic end. On the other hand, even though George was a wretched person, he was still Syra's genuine father. He thought that, no matter the circumstances, there was no way he would mistreat his pregnant daughter. And so, in order to avoid the potential catastrophe in front of him, Edwin brought Syra back to her home.
George could not possibly be a demon. He was, after all, the father of a single daughter. That was what Edwin believed. George was no demon back then. He was in the process of becoming one. Edwin, don't think you can escape from the Black Leos forever. I'll kill you someday, even if I have to chase you to the end of the world. I swear I'll kill you. Please, stop it. Or, stop it, please. God damn it, auto text. Mind your... Whoa. What? Do you think I wish to see your miserable, misshaped body? Get out of my sight at once? Otherwise, I'll kick... Wow. No. Father. Who are you calling father? I think we read through this cutscene or dialogue before, but not actually seen it play out or know much about the context. You're an ugly pig who has conceived the child of a foreign man and now has a hideous, distended belly to show for it. You're no longer the Syra that I know. Get out of here this instant. You can drag your heavy body out of here and die in a dog's death along with your child for all I care. Holy shit, dude. Or how about this? Would you rather abort the creature in you by kicking you hard enough to send you flying? That way I can discharge your oh my god. Wow, dude. In the end, the one George loved was not Syra herself, but his own constructed illusion of Syra. His fanalized. God damn it! He fantasized about a version of her that had no hold on reality. He loved only the fictional and the ideal Syra projected in his own mind. It was all a form of deception and obsessive love. That, however, changed when an unwanted truth intruded on his private fantasy. That was Syra's appearance. Her inflated, curved stomach, which contained you, a lake. That reality was, as expected, grotesque, beyond description to George. He was enraged that his image of Syra has been sullied. What he could not forgive was not that Syra had become pregnant. It was the fact that his beloved angel had lost her virginity. So that's where the name Virginie came from. From George's what was that? Like a clone of Syra or something? I don't fucking remember. Hating Edwin for deflowering Syra, George dispatched the Black Leos in relentless pursuit of him. At the same time, he renounced Syra. Without having any money of her own, the pregnant Syra was driven out of her home. She was willfully neglected. It was easy to see that she would die like a dog. Syra had been forced to live under near confinement by George and had no knowledge of the outside world at all. Even though she was out of her house with Edwin for some time before, it was only his guidance that made her feel secure in the outside world. Therefore, being away from home alone for the first time and having been driven out without a penny in her pocket, Syra was at a loss. That situation was similar to that of a bird which has just been thrown out into the open world and has no clue of how to fly or where to find food. The consequences were clear. Despite being prone to blackouts, Syra made her way on foot to her old hometown of Turku, where she was still conscious. Turku was the only place she knew and could return to other than her home.
However, the outskirts of Kokomo, she eventually gave birth. It was a premature birth coupled with over fatigue in body and mind. Syra was, by then, at the limits of her strength altogether. She was smeared in mud under the downpour. And then Syra was dead. She left her last smile to you, Lake. Well, damn, dude. That's something. Oh well, I'm glad I got to meet you. Unfortunately, this is also goodbye. Please forgive me, my dear son. Mother. Sigh. This part gets me every time I hear it. So, what was Edwin doing at that time? He was pursued day after day by Frezite's death squad and the Black Leos. Without a doubt, he could not free himself from danger even for a moment. Even still, as soon as he learned she had been driven from her home, Edwin went searching for Syra. Then the day came, in the outskirts of Kokomo. Of course it would rain today of all days. What better way to show that the past still lingers? It can't get any cooler than this. Yeah, it should be no one's business but mine. I don't need anyone to remind me of that day. After all, I left behind a memento that still remains there today. That's why I can still remember the heavy rain on that freezing cold day. Syra, why did this have to happen? Never mind that. Look, isn't our child cute? Yeah, he's really adorable. He looks a lot like you. That can't be right. He looks a lot like you. I'm sorry. If only I haven't taken you away with me. Why would you say that? If you had not done that, Lake would have never have been born. I am blessed to have met you. Truly, I am. Syra, once I'm reborn, we'll meet again, won't we? My life may cease, but never my spirit. Someday, the three of us will be together again. Yes, definitely. Ah, good. Oh man, that's pretty sad. Hey, you're just sleeping there. Come on, wake up. Damn it. I hate this. I've never said you could just die like that. I hate this. Syra. Excuse me. I don't want to fucking actually put much emotion right now. I'm sorry. I'm such a failure. I'm to blame for all of this. Hey, Syra, can I still redeem myself? Can I still atone for my sins by putting my life on the line in the battle to come? Forgive me, but sending you back home was the only thing I could think of. I am, after all, a scum. I
caused you to succumb to a cruel death. I am completely worthless. After witnessing Syra's last moments, Edwin entrusted you to Elena's care. He then buried Syra before quickly leaving the scene to avoid capture by his pursuers. The only indication of his feelings that he left behind was a short, rough wooden cross for the grave. True enough, he should have done a more proper burial for Syra, but he could not. Besides the fact that he was being pursued, there was a meaning to her secret burial. Like what? You see, by concealing her final resting place, knowing, he made sure that his pursuers would not be able to find her. They wouldn't be able to find you either, seeing that you were handed over to Elena shortly after you were born. In other words, Edwin's actions hid your existence from George and the CMGC, making your mother's grave plain and obscure was not at all an act of manipulance. Rather, it was the only viable option. Naturally, Edwin never visited her grave after this. Thereafter, his refuge life continued for a while. When the Internal Affairs Office came to learn the truth about the birth of Seraphic Blue, or more specifically Syra's pregnancy, its goal switched from eliminating Edwin to securing the existence of Seraphic Blue. In addition, upon finding out that George has dispatched his own squad of the Black Leos, the Internal Affairs Office immediately ordered their withdrawal. However, George merely pretended to abide by that while continuing to pursue Edwin behind the government's back. Though he could also pursue the whereabouts of Syra's spirit, he did not have the effective means to do so. Eventually, as time passed, the drive to pursue Edwin gradually weakened. And when the intensity died down 7 years ago, Edwin formed the OHG to ensure that all his efforts would not be for naught. 2 years after that, he learned about the whereabouts of Syra's spirit from me. It was when he invited me to join the OHG. After all, I was the only one who knew of her spirit's whereabouts. Oh yeah, you were a member of the CMGC before joining the OHG. Way before that, in fact. When I learned of Syra's death, it brought home to me the mistakes I had committed. Mistakes such as causing the birth of Seraphic Blue, and the consequences of believing in the CMGC. My heart was at a loss. Instead of hope, all I saw was despair. The great cause that I held up brought only harm to people, and drove them into the depths of darkness. A week after Seraphic Blue was born, I handed in my retirement letter to Ralph, then the chairman of the CMGC, to convey my intention to step down. Ignoring the various voices of people telling me not to retire, I abandoned my unfinished duties and disappeared from sight. Such is my cardinal sin that will accompany me to my grave. It is inevitable, therefore, that I have to concern myself with the future actions of the CMGC. Hence, I have been given getting hold of information from the CMGC through a close old colleague of mine. Syra was Seraphic Blue's first wing. In accordance to the regulations defined by Gaia's providence, the existence of Seraphic Blue lies not in the bodies but in the spirits. That is why Seraphic Blue's first wings did not cease to exist even though Syra died. It was Section SB which ensured the existence of Seraphic Blue's first wings by having Syra be reborn with her spirit as a second permanent soul. That was when my mother's spirit occupied the body of a Seraphic, and that's Vene. Yes, that happened 22 years ago. However, Vene's birth marked the beginning of the reenactment of Syra's dark days. The fools at Section SB committed a sin, and that they only saw Seraphic Blue as something they called the instrument of the world's salvation. The instrument of the world's salvation. From the start, they regarded Vene as an instrument to save the world, and never thought of properly treating her as a person. Vene. Yes, that was all I was to them. The people at Section SB never regarded me as a person, but only raised me to be loyal to fulfilling my mission as Seraphic Blue. To begin with, I was born after Cyrus Smith was linked to a discarded infant's body. In other words, I have no parents. It wouldn't have invited too much trouble for them if parents were involved. After that, a specialized Team Anschbach, was formed to manage and educate me. A through policy was set by the team's chief, Sigberg and Anschbach. God damn, I can't read that name, dude. Pronounce it. Under that policy, I was to have no contact with the outside world. I would simply undergo training and devote my whole life to being the instrument of the world's salvation. In simple terms, I was brainwashed. Sigberg was likely proud of this policy, as it fully pleased his pet theories. He believed that to educate a clueless child, a parent should ideally brainwash the child. That might seem like a bizarre experiment, but to him, it was the only way it ought to be. And so, from the time of my birth till recently, my life has been his to do with as he wishes. What kind of bullshit is that? That's no different from your previous life with George at all. As I thought things were supposed to start anew when my mother was reborn. She had hoped to make a fresh start in life as you, her reincarnated self. And yet, not a goddamn thing changed. Why? I'm sorry. I shouldn't have yelled at you. It's okay. I'm fine. That's all in the past anyway. I'm now doing well with Edwin and everyone else here. At any rate, Lake, your behavior now is no different from that of Edwin back then. What do you mean, back then? I mean, when I told Edwin about Ven's living conditions under Sigberg's care, he yelled at me just like you did. Then sometime later, he once again filed a request to the CMGC's higher department. He demanded that Ven's miserable living conditions be improved immediately, and if that could not be done, that she be handed over to the OHG. The request was rejected. As a result, he resorted to abduction. That was to free a lady he was destined to be with from the dark and small birdcage in which she was locked. Would that be the raid 2 years ago, which Minerva told me about before? That is correct. Details regarding the raid, though, were not made public. Basically, Edwin raided a residence of the CMGC, Residence Minerva, in the outskirts of the royal capital, and took Vene away from there. Of course, I tried to dissuade him, but he would just not listen. For better or worse, no part of him had changed, even 20 years after the abduction of Syria. It should be perfectly clear to you. There is no doubt that naivety runs in the blood of both Edwin and you. Maybe. But if I were him, I wouldn't go through the hassle of negotiating with the CMGC. I would rescue Venice straight away. As I thought, Edwin's blood runs true. Edwin initially felt the same. After I told him about Vene, he immediately proposed carrying out a raid the next morning. It was only after much persuasion by all members of the OHG that he eventually went with the negotiations first. Vene, you must have been happy when he saved you, right? Yes,
It was just like how Syria felt when she was saved. I see. Moving on, Vena has been studying in a school for 3 years since the age of 17 to further cultivate her as a whole. That school was the Fezzites Magic Academy, located in the royal capital. As a result, her social life did not take a turn for the worse from then on. Even then, however, she was only keeping up appearances. When she was first brought here, she was seen as someone lacking entirely of human emotion. However, as she warmed up to all the people here, beginning with Edwin, their perception of her gradually improved. Do not worry, there is plenty of hope in Vena's future. So, it's all good, but if there's something I can do for you, Vena, I'll do it without hesitation. I want to at least be some use. Thank you, Lake, but you don't have to be so worried about me. I'm fine, honestly. This sums up the whole story then. Do you now understand how you, me, and Edwin got to this point? Yeah, pretty much. In that case, I'll finish off with the topic at hand. The reason for my appearance back in Torku Forest was really to fetch you. The fact that I went to meet you alone was Edwin's thoughtfulness to arrange a time just for the two of us to be together. Edwin arranged it? Yes, he did not want to pour cold water over the reunion between a long-lost mother and his son. However, Edwin's assault spoiled it completely. God damn it, now I'm having problems saying Ende. Whoa, this fucking Edwin sounds so good. It would have been better if I was with Edwin and a few others. But with me alone, there was virtually no hope in defeating Ende normally. That was why I had no choice but to activate Seraphic trance, driving Ende in the process. Consequently, I temporarily lost access to my memories. That was how I ended up traveling blindly instead of supposedly uniting. When you fell into the soul stream that the soul streams ascending flow propelled you to the world of Fezzight. You were able to bypass the celestial world because you were even a human world of Seraphic, but a half-human world of Seraphic. As if you were the first and the only being of your kind to exist in Gaia's providence. The celestial border did not recognize you as something to be rejected. Later on, you met Minerva and Hassan at goddamn, I can't remember the pronounce it. Traveled with them on their 7 journeys and eventually arrived here. As for me, I feared the worst after you were separated from me until Edwin and Connor came to my rescue. And together, the 3 of us returned here. Those are the truths of what happened up to this point in time. You overcame every obstacle that came your way, including dealing with it. Including dealing with Ende, and then unknowingly waited for the reunion with Edwin and me. And now you have learned the whole truth about yourself. Your existence as Seraphic Blue's main body is essential to us members of the OHG. And above all, the reunion of us 3 is Cyril's last remaining wish, still imprinted in me. We may have endured hardship over the years, but no matter what, we'll always be family. Will you join us in our destiny? Okay, what's with the cut to black? So, you didn't forget after all. Yeah. whenever rain falls, memories of that fateful day return to me. Even after so many years, that has never changed. You must really love my mother. To tell you the truth, about what Grandpa Dolan said, I was really born out of love? What is with this sudden question? Well, I mean, it's Project Seraphic Blue, right? I may still remember my mother's warmth, but in any case, I guess my birth was really to advance the project. Had I not been born at all, Edwin would possibly still be trying to fulfill his responsibility of making sure the project was shut down. Looking at you strictly from my perspective as a researcher, I would say you were not born completely out of love. Yes, Edwin abandoned on the project back then. In other words, nothing stood between responsibility and self-interest. However, it was Edwin and Syra's circumstances that began to create problems. They triggered Edwin and Syra's extraordinarily never-ending escape from their pursuers. Usually, a couple is bound to develop falsely heightened feelings of closelessness under such circumstances. A cheap and nasty relationship is most likely to follow, one that is unsubstantial and short-lived. However, I believe Edwin and Syra were different. Both of them enjoyed their days together and gambled on their lives and spirits to protect their happiness. Their strong resonance with each other exceeded the limitations of providence and accumulated in your birth. Even though the truth of the matter has long since passed out of our reach, I firmly believe it to be true. Do you still remember Syra's smile? Yeah, I still do, but that's only because the rain hasn't stopped yet. So you loved her too. That fateful rain will continue to fall even after we pass on. Nah, it'll stop raining one day. However intense or cold the rain may get, the blue sky will show its face eventually. But my mother can no longer see it. Well, that's because she's there already. Wow. Let's fight our battle together. So you made the decision to join us. Thank you. Don't get me wrong, it's not like I've forgiven you. Well, it would be shameless to ask for your forgiveness now. What my mother wanted was for us to be together as a family. Also wished to join Vin in our destiny. I suppose you mean Syra's spirit. But won't you be rejecting Vin if that's the case? That's what I thought. I addressed it with her. But that means I'll be neglecting you. It's okay. You were, after all, raised without experiencing your mother's warmth. And now the core of the warmth of her mother's spirit resides right here in me. You have the right to get close to her, and I have the will to present her to you. In other words, you should see me as Syra, and not as Vene. That is, after all, the best way to meet your needs. It's still kind of sad. My mother's spirit is no doubt warm, but it feels like something is missing. And to think this is our long-awaited reunion. Those heartless researchers and the ridiculous methods of education are to blame for that. They simply treated her as a thing. The instrument of the world's salvation. Yeah, while she hasn't yet fully recovered from her past trauma, seeing how she occasionally keeps saying things like, stop, stop, I would say she's a lot better now than before.
What should I think of her? Vene, or my mother? Don't let it get to you. Dwelling on it isn't going to solve anything. Scrap those unnecessary thoughts and focus on spending quality time with her. If you do that, you'll see for yourself who Vene truly is. Seems like you know her very well. Hate to say this, but I appreciate your advice. It's not a big deal, really. By the way, does Vene always feel that way? What way? Well, ever since I've traveled with her back on the ground, I can feel a sort of coldness, or a slight coldness from her. It might be my imagination, though. I see. Ironic if that's the case. Ironic? No, never mind me. I was just talking to myself. The rain seems to have stopped. But it's still cloudy. The blue sky hasn't appeared. It will sooner or later. Don't be so sullen. Don't treat me like a kid. Wow, that was nice. But I guess I'm gonna wrap things up here and call it an episode. See you guys in the next episode.